It's no surprise that I'm a huge fan of Splatoon 2, and I actually really love the single player gameplay, both as an Inkling and an Octoling. However, some of the missions in the Octolings campaign, the Octo expansion, can actually be really difficult. So I'm here to count down the 10 missions that made me glad I was off the hook when I beat them. This is not a good way to start off the list. So in this train wreck of a level idea, it requires you to break boxes to match the statue. You do get the boxes you need to break marked for you, but just destroying one other block sends you back, and it'll only take one miss aim for that to happen, which is a problem when there are so many goddamn blocks to break. This is a serious test of patience and aiming as you slowly break the right blocks, with the only help being a couple of ink refills and one checkpoint, which you'll have to be careful when to use. You'll definitely be on the edge of your seat for this whole level. It may not have claimed as many lives as some of the later ones has, but it's still really challenging. You know what, I don't want to think about this level anymore, let's move on. In some of the missions, you get to refight the bosses from the original campaign, but they've been made harder, or you have to use a special. An example of the former is the Octo oven. It has gotten a serious major upgrade since last time. It plays out mostly like the original fight, but now his weak point will be guarded by sprinklers, splash walls, and various Octo enemies. The long range of the jet scorcher means you can hit them from the ground, but they can easily do damage to you, especially the sprinklers. Meanwhile, the Octo oven will be chasing you around the arena. Like the original, you need to climb up the tower when he shoots out all 6 spreads, but up there, you'll be bombarded with enemy projectiles, hoping you can kill the tentacle before they kill the Octoling. You are granted the curling bomb, which you can use for a quick getaway, and you are given a checkpoint in between each hit, which is nice, but none of that can save you when going for the boss's weak points. Get ready for the hardest turf war you'll ever have without your teammates. Okay, never mind. You have to destroy all of Marina's hyperbombs in under 3 minutes before Ecopolis turns into future England. And that is much harder than it sounds. Every 30 seconds until 2 minutes, Marina will drop 5 hyperbombs that you need to destroy. And the amount of time you get is very strict. Unless you know the exact route to take, which you probably won't on your first try, you'll be scrambling all over the statue just to get to the hyperbomb's location. If you make one mistake, that's almost guaranteed to be a loss, as it'll cost you a lot of time, which you don't have much of. And it's not like you can even get ahead. Destroying a set will automatically send the next ones out. This is a boss that's likely going to take numerous attempts trying to work out the best routes, and any mistake is likely going to cost you and the whole of Inkopolis. At least that music is banging. And here's an example of the boss refights with a special, and this is definitely the hardest of the bunch. In this rematch, you have to fight him in the baller. The only way you can damage him is with the baller's explosion, which can only do so much damage at a time. But the problem is that whilst it's charging, you are wide open. And because of how bouncy the baller is, all of his attacks can easily send you flying out of the pit. Granted, there are a couple of gates that can save you, and if it wasn't for them, this fight would be much higher. But they're not going to save you every time. You really need to pay attention to what this guy's doing so you can dodge and attack at the right time. Once you do learn when to time the ball's explosion, it becomes a lot easier. Like the Octo oven, you get a checkpoint after each hit, which you'll be glad of, but that won't save all the flying balls. But compared to another boss on this list, this is nothing. And here's a missive where you have to defend an arm from enemy attacks. And spoiler alert, this isn't the only mission with that goal on here. In this case, you have to shoot off the Octo missiles before they explode on the orb. Sure, it doesn't start out too bad, although they do require good aim to destroy, but as the clock gets closer to 0, more missile launchers will show up to the point where missiles will come in from literally every direction. You'll have to constantly move around and aim the cannon to destroy the missiles, and just one miss can screw you up. And the orb can only take so much damage until it blows. You can heal it, but you'll be too busy trying to kill off every missile. You'll need to strategize which ones to take out first if you want to beat this mission, and that's easier said than done. All I can really do for this stage is destroy as many as I can and hope for the best. You thought some of the previous missions were hard? How about a mission where you can't take one hit? Yeah, that's can't touch this. If you get hit by an enemy projectile, dead. Step in enemy ink, dead. Get in contact with an enemy, dead. Make any small mistake, dead. And it's a fairly long stage. You do get checkpoints to work with, but any small mistake will bomb you back to the last one. You'll constantly have to take out waves of enemies, knock out Octo commanders, and create paths to get past the spreaders. There's also some sections where you have to take out some enemies whilst dealing with the spreaders, as well as sections where you are heavily outnumbered. This is a mission that will take a lot of patience and practice to get past, as you'll have to do a lot of damage without taking any yourself. This stage is exactly what it says on the tin. You only get one shot to bust all of the blocks. You have to shoot one of the puffer fishes to explode and cause a chain reaction. However, the position you have to hit the puffer fish is very specific. You need to hit it bang in the center so every box can be within the explosion. But if it's even just a little bit off, you may find there's just one box left unexploded and you fail. This stage is a serious test of your precision, though to be quite honest, there's nothing else I can really say. So the final section is split into several mini sections, and without question the hardest was phase 6. The goal is to deliver this energy core to the end by shooting it. Problem is that everything wants it dead. You'll constantly have to deactivate lasers, shoot down a bajillion enemies of all kinds, and time your shots well to avoid obstacles. It doesn't help that the orb is incredibly fragile, as it'll only take on a few hits, and there's no way to heal it other than a couple of checkpoints. The worst part of this mission is towards the end, where you get bombarded with Octo bombers, Octo missiles, and Octo commanders. This section is particularly difficult not to take damage in. Trying to manage shooting the orb and shooting the enemies is tricky enough, but trying to refill is risky as your orb is wide open. You seriously need to be aware of your surroundings throughout this whole phase, otherwise no surface for you. Don't act like you didn't see this one coming. It seems nice at first, you can choose any weapon and special you wish, and you even get armor to play with. But regardless of what you choose, prepare to be murdered. The goal is to defend the orb for 90 seconds from the Octolings. It starts out simple enough, but as you get further in, you'll have Octolings attacking you left, right and center with every weapon and special under the sun. You can tell when an Octoling is coming as the arrows point to their super jump locator. Thing is, as you're taking them out, there's another one on the opposite side hanging straight for the orb. And when they start busting out the specials like the Stingray and Inject, you're going to have a hard time surviving, let alone defending the orb. Thankfully they follow the same pattern every time, so you can learn when everything's going to happen and create strategies around that, but that still requires a lot of trial and error. This mission's difficulty would have definitely been worthy of a number 1, but there's one mission that's harder than this. By a lot. Just to even get to this mission, you have to beat the previous 9 ball busting missions, and your reward, and I use the term reward extremely loosely, is a fight with Inner Agent 3. And holy good luck beating this. Yes, I know this was a predictable choice, but I don't care, because this fight can blow me. Inner Agent 3 will constantly zip around the arena, shooting relentlessly at you, firing autobombs that I swear have a larger than normal hitbox, and using every special under the sun. You have to shoot him 5 times, and all but the 4th will murder you. He starts off with the Inkjet, which can easily damage you, then he uses the Bubble Blower, which can defend him and kill you in the explosions. The 3rd hit requires you dodging a load of autobombs, which like I mentioned, seem to have a larger than normal hitbox. Hit 4 you need to consecutively hit him with splat bombs, which isn't easy, though dodging his attacks actually kind of is. And the last hit will have him constantly splashing down on you. Granted you have blocks in the arena to help with this, but he uses to splash down fast, so you'll constantly be needing to move around the arena. And if you get up close to him, he'll splash down on you. Trying to hit him is also a nightmare, as he can easily evade shots. I swear he knows the right time to avoid them, and he also has ridiculously good aim. Not to mention his shots are really powerful. Just a couple can break your armor, which slows you down and leaves you very vulnerable. Meanwhile, he can take a huge amount of damage. Any small error will result in you being absolutely murdered before you can say away. I seriously hate this battle, it went way too far. If you can beat this boss really easily, please, teach me. This has been Inkling Gaming, and I hope future games in this series don't repeat this mistake.